this whole question of immigration is a fascinating one. I speak Spanish, and I often go out and talk with Guatemalans or Colombians or Mexicans or people who are here mowing our lawns and picking our fruits and vegetables. These immigrants, many of them illegal. We're trying to build a fence now to stop them. I have never spoken to one of them who wants to be in this country. They all want to be back in their countries, and these are beautiful countries. Mexico's a beautiful country. Bolivia is a beautiful country. Guatemala. They want to be back there with their families. They can't afford to be. There are no jobs for them there. And that's to a large degree because of the system that we've created, what we call the fair trade systems, the NAFTAs and all these systems that we've created that are exploiting these countries terribly. They don't have the jobs there. So they come here so they can make money, and they send a great deal of that money back to their families back there. They're not enjoying themselves in this country. They're working very, very hard, and they're performing tasks that most of us don't want to perform. And this is terribly sad. So once again, the solution to the immigration problem, and it can be a problem, yes, it can hurt our workers here. I totally sympathize with people here that feel threatened by this. But the solution is not building a fence. It's not trying to keep the people physically out. It's to allow them to create the conditions in their country that will allow them to live there. These countries have great resources. That's why we're exploiting them. We need to create a world where they can work with their own resources in their own countries. That's where they want to be, and they've got the resources. But the opposite has happened. We've created a situation where they can't find work in those countries, where we've mechanized things, where we've done it our way, a very different way, where we're exploiting them. We need to reverse that and to recognize that a fence isn't going to solve the problem, and immigration laws aren't going to solve the problem. The problem is solved not with Band-Aids like those, but by going to the root cause. This planet is hemorrhaging badly, environmentally and socially. People are hemorrhaging badly, and we may need a few Band-Aids in the interim to kind of stop the bleeding, but ultimately, we've got to go to the root cause of the wound. Where is this disease coming from? Where is this injury coming from? What's the problem? And in almost every case today, the problem is the system we've created. It is the empire. It's what the corporatocracy has created. It's what I, as an economic hitman, created and am having to live with now. We need to go to that root cause, and we need to dig it out, get rid of it, change it, and implement a better system. I've met a lot of insurgents, revolutionaries. In writing books, I've sought them out. When I was an economic hitman, I had contact with them. I have never met one that wanted to be an insurgent. They want to be farmers. They want to be merchants. They want to be with their families. They don't want to carry guns. Now, I'm sure there's some crazy people out there. There's always a few that probably would do that. But the majority of these people are desperate, desperate people. Their families are starving. They don't see any hope for the future. They see themselves being terribly exploited and their kids being exploited. They're a lot like my own ancestors in the 1700s in this country who out of desperation, stood up to the largest empire in the world. These people are seeing things the same way. They don't want to be doing that. They don't want to put their lives on the line. Whether it's in the Middle East or in South America or in Africa, most of these people are just plain desperate. The way for us to protect ourselves is not to think that we can kill them all, or not to think that we can control them by military means. The way to defend ourselves is to take away the conditions that cause the desperation, the hatred and the anger. That's our best protection. Our money is not well spent when it goes into the military to go to other countries to think that we can put down people who are only trying to defend their lands and make a better life for them and their families. The way that we can defend ourselves is to give them the opportunity to really do that. to make a better life, and to make that commitment ourselves that we're going to work with them. We're going to be partners with these people to help them make a better life, because we know that will make our lives better and our children's lives. And that's the only way we can do it. I think the solution is for all of us to understand that the only way we're going to have a sane and stable and sustainable world is through really, really helping these countries to do what they need to do themselves, giving the people in these countries the power to determine their own future, not allowing dictators to do it, not allowing our corporations to do it, to really give them the opportunity to do this, and to recognize that we truly are all one on this planet. We're very connected. We're a very, very small community. To pull the corporations off them, to stop exploiting them, and in fact to turn it around so that corporations and all of our institutions truly embrace them. If Nike's going to have factories in Indonesia, the Indonesian people, the workers in those factories, need to have a say. And they need to have a share, and their best interests need to be the first thing that Nike or any other corporation looks to. What serves the best interests of the people working in these companies, not what serves the best interests of the owners of the corporation. And only by doing that, and only by all of us taking a stance that we're not going to buy the products from any company that doesn't do that, are we going to pull ourselves out of this. I think that one of the exciting things right now is that a country like the United States, that really is the leader of the modern empire. We are the modern empire, and we've got a lot of allies throughout Europe and Japan and many other places. But we are sort of like the coach of the team and the captain of the team. But at the core of our country, and at the core of many of the other countries also, are some very incredible principles of equality and sustainability and stability. You know, in the American Declaration of Independence, we talk about government for the people, of the people, by the people, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's a value system that's very different from the one that created the division between wealth and poverty. And so this has been defined for us. And in a way, we've all bought into it. The world loves these ideas. And the revolutions that are going on in South America today really reflect that. These countries are saying, this is what we want. Government for, of, and by the people. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everybody. And so I think we've reached a time now where we know a couple of things. We know, A, that we've created a global empire. And that's not a good thing, but in the process of doing that, we've created systems of communication so that we can reach everybody on the planet. And B, we've created resources that make it possible to be in a situation where nobody needs to starve. 24,000 people die every single day from hunger and hunger-related diseases, at least 24,000. And that doesn't need to happen. We have plenty of resources, so that shouldn't happen. It happens because of the system we've created. But we know we're now at a time when we have resources that can stop that. And we have the networks around the world to make it happen so that this doesn't have to happen, that this doesn't have to occur. And the third thing that's happened is we realize that we live on a very small planet. We are one community. And certainly, if we didn't already know it, 9/11 taught us that. The conquistadores never had to worry about the Incas attacking Madrid, and the French and British never had to worry about their Asian or African colonies attacking Paris or London. We know today that we're very, very vulnerable to people in Afghanistan or wherever they happen to be. Our cities are vulnerable. We live on a very small planet. I know that my daughter, who's 24, and her children are not going to have a stable, sustainable, and sane world unless every child born in Ethiopia and Indonesia and Bolivia also has that expectation. This is a very small community. So we've got these three elements at play right now. We've created a global empire, and we have all the resources, including communications networks, that we need to alleviate suffering, to narrow the gap between rich and poor. And we know that we live on a very small planet, in a very small community, and that we must create a new world. We must, for the survival of our future generations. To me, that gives us great hope that we finally have arrived at a time where we can realize the ideals expressed by the Declaration of Independence in the United States and by many other sacred documents that were actually started in France and England and other parts of Europe and Asia, that all came together to form the philosophy behind this new approach to living that evolved in the 1700s. And we're now reaching a time where I think we can see that this has to be brought in on a global level. So I find this to be very, very exciting that we can break this pattern that may be, it's at least 3,000 years old, it may be older, and now is the time to break that pattern. I also find as I travel around the world that there's a tremendous outcry to do this. People really want to do it. We've seen it very strongly in South America. And we're increasingly seeing it in Europe and the United States, and certainly the Middle East. A lot of what's going on in the Middle East is an expression of this, although that doesn't usually make the mainstream media. But so much of what's going on in the Middle East is an expression of this demand that we reduce this gap, that we change the paradigm, that we do get rid of poverty. And in fact, we get rid of the idea of wealth that creates the idea of poverty. So I look forward to this period as a young person growing up in New Hampshire. I come from 300 years of Yankees in New Hampshire who fought in the American Revolution. My family was very involved in these things. And I used to think, when I was a kid, I used to wish that I had been born in the 1700s so I could have been part of the American Revolution. What I know now is I think that this is even a more exciting and important time in history because we have the opportunity to implement these ideas on a truly global level.